Hello and welcome back. So a couple videos ago I made a clown outfit, like a Valentine's clown theme. And I made it for Halloween, and it came out cute, but I honestly have not worn it since I made that outfit. So I want to redo it and make it into something that I'll wear a little bit more often. So for this video, I'm going to be cutting that outfit in half and then making some new pants to go with it, and then probably making the bottom half into like a pair of bloomers. And I think I also really want to do like a new rough like collar thing because I just wasn't happy with how the first one came out. It wasn't like giving the clown Pierrot look that I wanted it to. And I personally really like going back to projects that didn't completely come out right because I spent a lot of time and money on the materials and I don't want it to just go to waste. So I would rather like remake it into something that I'm actually going to use and wear and everything. So I actually intended this to be like a Halloween costume, but it took me like a really long time like getting it ready, getting it filmed and everything. So now this is more like a Valentine's thing, I guess. But for me personally, clowns are year-round, so I don't mind. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So this should be a pretty easy outfit compared to what I usually do. The top part will be pretty much done. I just want to separate it from the bottom part of the onesie and add a ruffle. The biggest problem I had with the clown fit was that it was just a little too small, so it was really uncomfortable. The fabric is really nice on it though, and soft, so I don't want it to go to waste. I want to make a completely new pair of pants as well, so that's my main focus for this project. I want them to be wearable, so I want a cute and practical design. I think I want to add heart appliques to the pants in some way as well. I'm thinking maybe hearts on the knees, but I'm not sure at this point. Once my design was finished, I headed to the fabric market to see what I could find. This trip to the market was really busy, so I ended up not really filming anything there. Every trip is always a little different. I was searching for a red fabric for the bloomer pants, and miraculously, I found the perfect choice. I got 5 meters, all that they had, of this beautiful Punta di Roma fabric. It's a thick jersey blend, probably polyester and cotton or viscose. It's a little stretchy, but it's also thick and heavy, so it's exactly what I needed. Okay, here's the clown outfit that I made last year. So I want to cut it like in the middle here, but I think these hearts are in the way, so I'm going to have to take them off. But yeah, I'm going to cut it in the middle, and then I have some fabric left over, so I'm going to add a ruffle to the top, and then just put a elastic waistband on the bottom so they can wear them as separates. And I got this fabric from the fabric market to make a new pair of pants. That way I can have a pair of pants to go with this outfit as well, and not just the short pants, and I think they'll look really cute. So before we start on the pants, let's do the top real quick. I used some small sewing scissors to remove the stitching around the heart appliques. The pink fabric is cotton flannel, so the stitch marks won't stay after I remove the stitching. It's a little bit annoying to undo work that I've already done, but if the garment is better after I fix it, then the time is well spent in the end. Once the hearts are removed, I marked on the onesie with disappearing marker where I wanted to cut it in half. It's important to take the time and mark out where to cut it first so it's all even. Sewing and making clothing is actually really difficult. It's so easy for one thing to be slightly wrong and throw off the entire result. For this onesie, I made the length too short, so it ended up being uncomfortable. Really good sewing and tailoring requires a lot of math and special skills that I know I'll never have. I think people really underestimate how difficult good clothing is to make, especially with all the fast fashion we have right now. I like to make things for myself that I can't find or buy anywhere, but there's a lot of things that I'll never be able to make myself as well. I know I'll never be able to make a pair of jeans like a factory can. They have special machines that I'll never have. So I always try and appreciate the clothing I have, make, and buy. I really want to encourage people who like fashion and sewing to just do it. Just start sewing even if it's hard because it is worth it. But I also want to show and teach people that clothing is difficult to make, even if they don't want to make it, and it should be treated with care and respect. I think if something is worth making, it's worth putting time and effort in to make it good, instead of just quickly finishing it for an event to be worn once and then thrown away. Anyway, back to the project. I finished up the top with a ruffle, so it's time to start the pants. I decided I want heart appliques around the bottom of the pants instead of hearts on the knees. I think it'll be a lot cuter. So I quickly sketched a design. I also made these bloomer pants before I started this project, which means I can use the pattern from them to make my clown bloomer pants. Here's a quick little vid making these pants. Came out really cute and I wear them all the time now. I spent so much time just making the pockets for these. I hand sewed the velvet ribbon onto one pocket. This was my first time trying cargo style pockets too. I was so scared to try them and I did it. Turns out they weren't that difficult and I'm very proud of how they came out. Also, I've washed these a couple times and I had no problems, if you were wondering. Oh, I also made those pants from some fabric I thrifted and a bunch of scrap pieces of trim, ribbon, and lace, so they were like super cheap to make. Anyway, now back to my current project. I used the bloomer pants pattern I made and I folded it over in the middle by about an inch so the pants would be a little less wide than the pink pair. The red fabric is thick and heavier, so it needs to be a little bit smaller. I got the pants cut out and some pockets for the front and back of the pants. I want to do a pocket with a ruffle on the front and some back pockets with bow appliques. I also want to trim the edges of the pockets with the pink satin fabric I got, so I cut out a bunch of small strips of it to use. I ironed some interfacing to some of the satin as well for cutting out the heart appliques later. The strips of fabric for the bow appliques needed to be folded over twice and ironed as well. I actually hate making these little fabric strips, but I end up doing it every time because it's so useful and cheaper than buying pre-made bias tape. Alright, so the pockets need to go on the pants before I assemble them, so I'm working on them first. I'm doing my usual bow applique method for the back pockets. I just take the satin ribbons I made and pin them into a cute little bow shape that I like. I usually hand sew these sort of bow appliques on, but this time I'm going to sew around the edges with the machine. Since they're back pockets and I want to be able to wash these pants regularly, I have to use the machine. It'll be more sturdy. I also sewed some trim onto the pieces I'm going to be using for the ruffles on the front pockets. To machine sew the bows on, I just carefully sewed around the edges of the bow, making sure to not overlap it in weird spots so it looks nice. Now the bows are on the pockets, but they still have a lot left to finish them. I need to add the ruffles on the front pockets and finish the edges with the satin tape. First, I cut out some bias strips that I'm going to use for the pocket opening. It's a curved edge, so I need to cut the fabric out on the bias specifically. The rest of the strips I cut out were on the straight grain, which is just like cutting out the fabric normally. Cutting the fabric on the bias makes it a little stretchy. I use my cutting board to figure out where the bias angle is. So next I take the little strips for the ruffles and gather them a little and then pin them on. Then I pinned the satin bias strip on as well and sewed all of it at once. After that, I folded the satin fabric over twice and pinned, then sewed it down to enclose the edge of the pocket opening. Now to finish the pockets, I need to sew satin binding around the edges of the pockets, which I do the same way that I did the pocket opening. I pin, then sew the satin strip on, then double fold, pin, and sew to complete the edges. While I'm working on the pockets, I thought I'd mention my view of the future of fashion. I love fashion, but there are a lot of issues with the modern fashion industry. In my opinion, large companies like Zara and Primark shouldn't exist. I think that fashion should be created by small specialty brands, run by fashion designers with ateliers where skilled sewists make a reasonable amount of clothing. Clothing should also be a lot more expensive than it is. There should also be places specializing in cleaning, mending, and remaking existing clothing to resell. I think those kinds of places already exist, but there needs to be more, and people have to start choosing to shop at those places instead of buying cheap, poorly made clothing. People also need to have the funds to be able to make those choices too. I have so many more thoughts about this stuff, but there are a lot of other people out there who have already talked about all the issues better than I can, so this is just a little thought for now. So back to the project. I'm starting on the heart appliques next. I used the satin fabric I previously ironed to some interfacing to draw and cut out a bunch of hearts. I decided to add hearts on the front pockets, and that way I can also test my applique method before I start on the pants. First, I tried sewing the satin heart onto the pocket just by itself, but it didn't go very well. The stitching was all messy, and I wasn't happy with it. For the second pocket, I tried cutting out a square of interfacing and ironing it onto the back of the pocket. Then I sewed the heart on top of the pocket. This time I had no problem sewing the heart on with the interfacing added, so I cut out a bunch more squares for the pants and to fix the first pocket I did. I ripped out the stitching on the heart from the first pocket so I could fix it and add a new heart with interfacing on the back. Once the pocket was fixed, they were completely finished, so it's time to move on to the pants. I want to put the heart appliques on first before doing anything else with the pants pieces. I used the bloomer pants that I already made to figure out how high above the hem to place them. Then I used some pins to mark that height on the pants piece. I also used some pins on the side to mark the seam allowance. I know I want 4 hearts, so I put them on the pants and then arranged them until they're equal distance apart, and half the distance from the side hearts to the seam allowance. Once the placement of the hearts was good, I pinned them down and flipped the pants piece over to the inside. I used the pins as a guide where to put the interfacing squares that I cut out before. The inside interfacing doesn't need to be super exact, it's just to hold the fabric in place and give strength to the heart appliques on the outside. I probably could have just done some strips across instead of squares, but this works fine too. There are a lot of pins on the pants right now, so I carefully iron the interfacing on enough so it just stays in place. Then I take out the pins holding the interfacing on and iron it a little bit more. Seriously, sewing is just pinning things into place over and over. I think I've spent more time pinning and unpinning things than anything else. With the interfacing ironed on, it's time to start sewing all the hearts on. I picked a wide, short zigzag stitch to sew around the edges of the hearts. Pretty simple, but it took me a long time. The first one that I did came out a bit funky, and I had to re-iron the interfacing a bit and redo part of it, but then the rest came out fine. I had 4 hearts on each of the front and backs of the pants, so 16 hearts in total to sew around. Now it's time for a little cat break because Topaz was distracting me while I was sewing. Yay! She's so cute, oh my gosh. Alright, all the hearts are sewn on, so I iron over them a little bit again, just to make sure everything is nice and smooth. Next, I'm going to add the pockets onto the pants pieces. It's pretty hard for me to show the pants laid out. My sewing room is too small, but here are all the pieces that I have. To add the pockets, first I figure out how far down the waist is going to be. Then I pin the pockets on just slightly lower. The front pockets get sewn onto the side seams and the back pockets don't. Then I just need to sew all the pockets on. Now the pockets are on the pants, so we're going to start assembling the pants. I want to make the ankle drawstring part first, so I cut out some more strips of the pink satin fabric that I'll be using to make it. 2 of the strips will be the drawstring channel, and 2 will be the drawstrings that go inside. So 2 of them I double folded and ironed and sewed shut to make the strings. The other 2 I folded over and ironed, then I folded the edges under and sewed them down. It's kind of hard to explain, but I tried my best to show what I mean. When I sew these down onto the pants, I want the edges to be closed inside so they don't fray when I use the drawstring. After I finished getting the satin pieces ready, I went back to the pants pieces. I matched up the front and back pieces and sewed the inside seams only. Now for doing the drawstring channels, I'm pinning the channel piece down with the string inside, that way I don't have to pull the string through afterwards. I measured up from the hemline where I want the drawstring to be. You can see here how I've got the string on the inside and what the inside of the channel piece looks like. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's not very complicated. I just have to make sure I don't sew over the drawstring on the inside and only the edges of the channels when I sew it together. The ends of the channel I want to be open as well, so I fold it over twice and pin it down. And I have another cute little cat break because Topaz was sitting in my chair and wouldn't let me sew, and I had to pay attention to her. So when Topaz finally let me have my chair back, I got back to sewing the channels down. So then the drawstring part is all done. Now I'm finishing the hems like I did with the pockets. I'm pinning, then sewing a satin fabric strip on. After that, I fold it over twice and pin it down, then top stitch it to finish the hems. Now the hem and drawstring are finished, so I can fold over and sew the outside seams of the pants. I pin down the drawstrings that are sticking out so I don't accidentally sew them into the seams. I also had to have another little break to play with Topaz. She loves to play with strings and ribbons. She's so cute, oh my gosh. Alright, now I'm sewing the side seams on the pants. And then I use this weird stitch to finish the edges. I usually use a zigzag stitch, but that makes this fabric get stretched out. Using the stitch is slightly better, but the edges are still a little wobbly looking. But since it's going to be on the inside of the pants, I don't think it's too much of a problem. Now each of the pants legs are done, so it's time to combine them in the middle. I pin them together and sew and finish the edges like the side seams. The only thing left is to finish the waistband. I made a loop of thick elastic that fit snugly on my waist, then I pulled the elastic to the length of the pants edge and zigzag stitched the elastic and edge of the top of the pants together. After it's sewn on, I fold down the elastic into the inside of the pants. I always make sure to sew the elastic on the correct side when I initially sew it on, so it folds down to the inside. After that, I again pull the elastic and zigzag stitch the edges. Now the waistband is all done, so I can finally try on the pants. They look really cute, and I'm super happy with how they came out. The pockets look so good. They are really heavy though, and with the waistband like this, they kind of just fall down, so I gotta do something to fix that. Before I do though, we gotta take a quick little break to do my hair. Alright, so we bleached my roots and re-dyed my hair, and I also bleached and dyed my eyebrows. That way I won't have to cover them up when I do the white face makeup. I don't want to have to shave them off and let them regrow in, so I thought this would be a little bit better. I really don't like having to cover up my eyebrows with glue and stuff. They don't sell the right type of glue here, and I've just never had it work properly, so I think that this will be a little bit easier. But yeah, the pants are pretty much done. I do want to add a drawstring on the waistband because the pants are really heavy, so the waistband slips a little bit. So I need to fix that, and then they're going to be 100% done. But also today is Halloween, and I really want to get dressed up in my outfit. I haven't finished the like rough neck collar thing, but I'm not releasing this video for Halloween, so I think I'm going to like get dressed up twice. I'm just gonna go ahead and get dressed up in what I have ready today. And then next week, I'm going to finish up making the rough neck collar thing. So yeah, I'm going to add the drawstring on the pants, and then I'm going to go ahead and get dressed up. To add the drawstring to the waistband, I need to add some eyelets first. I'm going to hand sew them because it's pretty easy and I've never had any problem with them. I use some metal eyelets to help me draw a small circle next to the middle seam on the front of the pants. I use my little sewing scissors to cut out the tiny circles. Then I use some embroidery thread and needle to just sew around the edge of the little circle I cut out. I loosely whip stitch around the edge once, and then I go around again, making really close together stitches to make a nice smooth eyelet. I've used this method to do eyelets a lot of times, and I've never had any get ruined in the wash or become unsewn, so it's a really good method. And it's also good for adding eyelets to already made garments. I pull the elastic on the waistband and sew a stitch right above where the eyelets are. I'm pulling the elastic so it's the length of the fabric, but not stretching out the fabric. Then I go back and sew another straight stitch right under where the eyelets are. A lot of the sweatpants with drawstrings that you can buy use this waistband method. I figured out how to make a waistband with a drawstring like this from looking at how my pajama pants are made. Alright, now I just need to pull the drawstring through the channel I made to finish it up. This is just some drawstring cord I already had in my stash. I like to have some of this around because it's not very expensive and it's really useful. With the drawstring finished, the pants are completely done! Yay! So here's how they look on. The drawstring waistband really helps. Next time, I'm just going to add it from the beginning instead of adding it later. The pants don't fall down and they're still super comfy. After I finished the pants, I put on a casual, comfy clown fit for Halloween, and then it was time to decorate some cute cookies that I made. Okay, so it's been a couple days and I'm going to go take pictures and videos of the finished outfit tomorrow, but I still need to finish the ruff, and I decided I don't want to do the original hairstyle. I want to just leave my hair as is because I really like wearing it like this. So instead I want to make like a little cone clown party hat type of thing, and that should be pretty easy to make and put together. I have all the supplies that I need for that. And for the collar, I decided I'm just going to use this fabric since I still have quite a bit of it. And I've got some red ribbon that I'll trim the edges in so that it's got at least some red detailing on it. And those shouldn't take very long to put together, so let's go ahead and get going. While I'm working on the collar, I want to talk a little about my experience with selling handmade things. I've been making things to sell online sporadically since I was like 13. I first made some jewelry and tried to sell it on eBay, but nobody ended up buying any. Later, I found ball-jointed dolls and made a few doll clothes to sell on a forum, and I sold a few that way. When I was just starting college, I started making monster purses, and Etsy was new and popular, so I made some to sell. I really liked making these, and I sold a few. I even did one custom that I sent all the way to China that I unfortunately don't have any pictures of anymore. At the time, I didn't have any way to advertise the purses, so I eventually got bored of making them since they took a long time to sell, if they even sold. These were some of my favorite things that I've made. After that, a few years later, I got into monster high dolls, so I made and sold some outfits for them. These sold pretty good, and I made some really cute outfits. but I couldn't keep making tiny doll clothing. It can be really frustrating. Then I finally started learning to make clothes for myself, and I really wanted to make a clothing brand selling the things I made for people. I tried a few times, making a few dresses to sell and some accessories sometimes. I would always have an idea and try really hard for a while, but then things would take a long time to sell or would never sell, and I would just get discouraged. I was also going to school and later working a part-time job that took a lot of my energy. Maybe if I stuck with one idea for longer or made some more items, I would have done better, but I'll never know now. Now I've realized that as an autistic person with ADHD, I can't really handle making very many pieces of clothing. It's so difficult to make enough items to make a profit. I was usually just making enough money to buy more supplies. I dreamed of being able to make things to sell and be independent. I used to feel really bad that I couldn't be as productive as I wanted to be, but now I know I've always just done the best I could to survive. I still dream of having a brand, or being a costume designer for movies, or making special custom outfits for people. At the same time, I also just do my best to survive every day. I don't know what the future holds for me though, so right now I'm just making these silly little videos for you all to share my fashion projects. I also have to say I really like making these videos. My parents had a video camera when I was growing up that I loved making videos with. Queen Amidala in the Phantom Menace is one of my first fashion inspirations. I never even considered growing up that I could be a costume designer or be involved in making movies. Maybe with my videos I can make my own little movie world and be my own costume designer. I like sharing myself, my story, and my art with the world to show everyone that I'm here and that I exist. I've spent a lot of my life alone, and by making these videos, I feel like I'm opening a little window to my life for anyone who wants to see. I feel that whenever I'm scrolling my phone, trapped in my own world, that at least I get to see a little glimpse of the other people that exist. I also want other people like me to know that I'm here and that they're not alone in the feelings they have about being autistic and struggling to exist. I just do the best I can to keep living my life. The most important thing is to just keep going and keep trying, and I hope you do too. Anyway, I think that's enough emotional talk for now, so let's get back to the project. So with the collar finished, the only thing left is the hat. I start making the pattern by tracing a plate and cutting it out. Then I cut out a quarter of the circle, and that's what I'm using for the hat base pattern. I cut out some stiff interfacing for the base of the hat. I'm using the pink satin again to cover it, so I cut out a piece slightly larger than the base so it has seam allowances. Next, I hand sew the side seam of the hat base. After that, I use my machine to sew the side seam on the satin piece. Then I turned it inside out and put it onto the hat base. I folded in the bottom edge and machine sewed it down as well. Now the base is ready, so I'm adding some embellishments. I'm using some strips of red, soft mesh fabric and gathering it to put around the base of the hat. After gathering it, I pinned then hand sewed the ruffle on. I also wanted to add some matching little pom-poms. So I used some really narrow strips of mesh and gathered, then rolled them up. I roll up one strip, then I add another and roll it up. I'm skipping over these a little bit because I've made pom-poms before and these tiny ones are a bit tricky and hard to see. I hand sewed a pom-pom to the peak and two along the main body of the hat, and I'm loving how it looks. So cute. Now I need to add a headband to put the hat on. I'm using a bias strip I cut out of the pink satin. I folded it over and sewed it down. Then I turned it inside out to cover a headband base that I had. You have to cut the fabric on the bias for it to fit over the curved headband nicely. I finished the edges of the headband by hand sewing and melting the fabric to make sure it doesn't fray. After that, the headband is ready for me to hand sew the hat onto. I tested the placement on my head, then marked it with a disappearing marker. I probably should have made a felt base to sew the hat onto, but I was just ready for it to be done. Alright, now the hat is finished. I think it came out really cute. Maybe a tiny bit small, but I like it. And here's everything all together. Before we get dressed and see the final look, I also made some white elf ears to go with everything. I love wearing my elf ears, but my normal pair wouldn't match the white clown look I'm going for, so I'm painting this extra pair that I have. I used some white acrylic paint and painted a bunch of layers. It took me a couple of days to paint them enough. I started them and worked on them while I was working on the other projects. After I thought they had enough paint, I used some of my white face powder to set the paint and make it not sticky. I also used some pink powder to add some blushing. Finally, I used some Mr. Super Clear spray to seal in the paint and powder. I think this method worked really well too, and the ears look really nice. Here's how the finished ones look compared to ones that haven't been painted. Alright, now it's time to do my makeup. Okay, my makeup's done. I need to add a little bit of lip gloss, but I'm gonna do that after I get all dressed. So let's get dressed now. So to take some videos of my outfit, we drove out to Ijmuiden, which is on the coast of the Netherlands. There are some mostly abandoned bunkers from World War II there and a small museum. We didn't go to the museum part, just the bunkers. They're free and open to the public to check out. I don't know the full history of these, but I think the Germans made them. They're nestled among the dunes, and far off in the distance was the North Sea, or Noordzee in Dutch. I decided to go here because it seemed remote and creepy, perfect for pictures. I definitely felt unsettled here. We saw a few people walking their dogs, but otherwise we were alone. It seems like many parties happen here late at night. Little signs of garbage and waste littered the bunkers. Seems only fitting considering who made these now ghostly buildings. Graffiti covers the wall, some of it art and some of it offensive, a little mark some human made to prove that they exist. The horrors of humanity surround us, yet we still continue the same path. The ones who choose a better way get punished, forced on the path or destroyed. The ghosts of our evil haunt us every day. Okay, so I'll be honest, it took me a while from finishing this outfit to like getting it all edited and finished, but I did do some other things like over the holidays, and I wanted to share the things that I did get done. So the first thing that I did was go and see the Wicked premiere, and I made myself a pair of pink sequin shoes to wear to the premiere, which was just gluing some sequins onto a pair of shoes that I already had, but here's a little video I have of making the shoes. Okay, so I'm going to see Wicked tomorrow. I got tickets to go to the early Dutch premiere, and I really want to cover these shoes that I have with sequins to wear to the premiere because I think they'll be super cute, and these shoes are kind of old at this point, so they've got a couple scuffs and scratches on them, and I think they'll be really amazing if I cover them in sequins. So first I'm sanding down the surface a little bit with a nail file just because that's the only sanding tool that I have. And once the surface was sanded on the shoe, I went ahead and cleaned it off a little bit with some alcohol on a cotton wipe, and then I just started gluing the sequins on. I think it took me about 2 hours per shoe, so like a little over 4 hours to glue all the sequins onto both shoes. So I think the first time I watched Wizard of Oz, I was probably like 4 or 5 years old, and I saw those ruby slippers and I needed a pair so bad, but my parents could not find any, so they got me a pair of like gold glitter shoes instead, and I absolutely loved them. I wore them until I couldn't wear them anymore. And I've always wanted a pair of like glitter sequin shoes, and of course I need to make a pink pair because I always wear pink. So I've been wanting to make a pair of shoes like this for a while, so I'm super excited. I'm also really excited to see Wicked because it really reminds me of my high school best friend. She really loved musicals and Wicked was one of her favorites. So the characters really remind me of her and like our relationship. So I'll definitely be thinking about her when I go watch the movie tonight. And I wonder if she's out there watching the movie and thinking about me too. Anyway, so I wrapped sequins all the way around the shoe until I got to the very middle of the front of the shoe, and I started wrapping the sequins just back and forth around the front and then wrapping it around in the middle to finish it up. And here's the first shoe all finished. It looks so good. Now I just need to finish up the other one. And that's it. They came out so cute. I'm really happy with them. And I'm really excited to go see the movie. And here's how they look on. And also here's some Christmas cookies that we made. I've also been doing a lot more drawing recently. Here's me drawing while I'm editing this video. And here's some of the artwork that I've drawn recently. I know I'm not the best artist, but you don't have to be to draw, you just have to have fun and draw. Like, that's all it's about. And I've gotten some nice color pencils, and it really helps a lot making nice drawings. And before we forget, because I kind of did, I need to finish the bloomer part of the original onesie. I made a new waistband piece and sewed it on. It was pretty simple. Here's how the bloomers look with the rest of the outfit. I think it looks really cute as well. Alright, and that was it! Thank you so much for joining me, you guys! I'm really happy with how this clown outfit came out. I felt really cute wearing it, and I really love how the red pants came out. They're so comfy, and the fabric quality is really nice, so I've just been wearing them like all the time. I definitely am going to be making some more bloomer pants like those. And finishing up the like bloomers that I took apart, like the end bit, I don't know why, but I just kept putting it off, and they ended up only taking like an hour and a half to fix, but you know, ADHD stuff. And yeah, I had a lot of fun dressing up like a clown. I just think it's really fun, and I love doing it, although I'm so nervous to be around other people dressed up as a clown. So I picked a place that was like a little bit more remote, so there wouldn't be a lot of people out to like take pictures and stuff. Plus I love how the videos came out like nice and creepy and stuff too. I like being a cute but also kind of creepy clown. But yeah, I'm excited to be done with this project and to be able to move on to the next one. I'm really happy with how this one came out, and I'm really excited for whatever's next. And if you enjoyed watching me make this, please leave me a little like and maybe a comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. I'm hoping to make some really fancy projects this year. So yeah, I hope you'll join me again, and until then, bye! Hello, ghost, are you here?